Welcome back. I'm Kenny.
And I'm Luke. Hope you're ready to dive right into some conversation about James and DeLorean's video about Jim Jones.
After watching the documentary on Jamestown, I think it's clear that we as a society consider what happened at Jonestown to be a significant tragedy.
Which inevitably begs a question, one which media and other groups have been arguing over for years. Was the massacre at Jonestown a mass murder or suicide?
Maybe the most effective way to examine this question would be to compare the central figure of the People's Temple movement, Jim Jones, the two other figures in history in which we find similar situations to that of the People's Temple.
So we'll do just that. And maybe the most apparent comparison be to that of the infamous leader of the Nazi regime, Adolf Hitler. There are extensive similarities found between Hitler's Nazi Party and Jones's People's Temple. Most evidently is the extensive following both were able to obtain under what most consider to be two very radical movements founded under some very radical ideas.
However, the members of these groups, of course, didn't necessarily see it this way, or if they did, they would be scrutinized or punished for attempting to oppose the ideals of that group.
We see many former members of the People's Temple confess to wanting to leave their cult-like surroundings. However, this was not so unorthodox and frowned upon by Jones that many were too frightened of what Jones may do if they decided to defect.
This was not so different than what we find in Nazi Germany during World War II. Many Nazis defected, especially soldiers, toward the end of the war because they simply did not believe in what they were doing, and similarly, defecting from the Nazis party was under penalty of death if caught.
Another note, the movements created by both these individuals did change the world in a somewhat positive light, whether we realize it or not. Jim Jones created a community in the 1960s and 70s where whites and blacks lived together in harmony, which at the time was unheard of. And undoubtedly, Adolf Hitler did co-found the Nazi Party, and despite having twisted ideas on a socialist government, did contribute several reforms to government in Germany.
Hitler makes Jones look like more of what we might consider a radical idealist, while if we compare Jones to, say, Charles Manson, we have a much different image of Jim Jones.
If Jim Jones was radical, Charles Manson was beyond what people would consider to be criminally insane. Manson was the leader of a commune dubbed the Manson family. Similar to the People's Temple, his commune also shared certain beliefs, but in this case, they were deranged and somewhat sadistic beliefs.
Manson was extremely manipulative, much like Jones, in the way that he could so easily convince people to believe in his ideas and do what he wanted them to do. Manson is infamously known for leading a murderous spree in California in summer of 1969. A majority of the murders in the spree were in fact not committed by Charles Manson himself, but by Manson's family members who were committed to the cause.
The level of persuasion is shown by each Manson and Jones, where Manson has manipulated individuals to kill other people, while Jones had persuaded people to kill themselves.
Our discussion certainly hasn't answered the questions posed earlier, but it certainly adds to the continued argument that 900 people were murdered or committed suicide.
And of course, thank you for joining us once again. We'll see you in the next one.